Well, to begin this whole trek, I want to share that I've come up with 5 steps or 5 things to keep in mind or ways to keep you on track as you're moving through minimizing stuff and beginning to loosen or break the tether of things. The first thing you need to do is to visualize. The second aspect is to utilize. The third is to consolidate. The fourth is to excavate. The fifth one is repeat. Now I want to go over each one of these just a little. Number 1, visualize. Part of the idea behind visualizing is getting an idea of what you want it to look like when you've really pared down to where you want to be. I've just barely gotten to the point of recognizing that I want to have everything that I need and everything that I own in my vehicle with me. I'm adding to that slightly the trailer, which I will keep for a while, and also those personal items that I choose not to have travel with me, but those that I don't ever really need to come back and get for some reason. I mean, I'll have my personal papers and those important things with me, secured in my vehicle as I move around. But I need to visualize and see that so that I can take a look at the last bit of stuff that I have. And like I said before, I'm not at the point where I'm done. But I need to be able to see and envision how I would like it to look. To really think about then how, after I have it that way and how I'm living that way, what is it that I'm going to say after that? Imagine, what is it that I'm going to say after I've gotten rid of that stuff that I wish I had? Not that I wish I still had, but that I find a need for now based on the fact that I live in my van and I'm no longer tethered to this area, and I can just go and not be concerned with using up someone else's space. So you need to visualize, first of all, what it's going to look like, what you want it to look like, and then work toward that. The second is to utilize. And what this means is begin to take an assessment of those things that you use all the time. There's some things that are going to have value that you don't use all the time. Like I think about driving, I have a jack to be able to jack up the vehicle. I haven't used it in months, but that doesn't mean that it's not an important or essential thing to have with me. So think about those things that you use and those things that you just plain want to have there. It's kind of like having certain allergies, dramatic allergies to something, and having EpiPens with you. You know, you're not necessarily using them every week or using them, but they're sure important if you've got them there. A snake bite kit, that's another thing that you don't use all the time, but it's something that you see as essential. So you see, I'm not trying to be a minimalist, as I've said before. I want to be an essentialist. And some things you're going to want to carry with you that you don't use all the time. But mostly in this time of utilizing, this second step of utilizing, begin to look at the things that you use. I've heard some other very smart people sharing ways that they do this. Basically, during the day, if you use something, set it in a pile. Just set it in a pile. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a utensil or something else, set it in a place uncommon to where you store it. Set it someplace. And begin to see those things that you use on a daily basis. And then begin to take those that you use more often, you know, like, well, let's just say your coffee cup. Let's see. Okay, if you have coffee in the morning, you clean it, you set it aside. You're going to use that the next day. You're going to use it for other things, okay? When you're on the road, like I don't even have a coffee cup now, but when I did, I had one cup, or if I did get one, I would get one cup. And it wouldn't be a plastic cup either. It would be a nice one that if it breaks, I'd be sad and have to go get another one. Because you can use that kind of cup, a ceramic cup or or piece of china. You can use that for other things. You can use it for soup, as a soup bowl, that kind of thing. So it may have more than one use. But as you're going through assessing what it is you use, take those things that you use, set them in a pile. Everything that you use weekly, set them in a pile, and then begin to look around and see those things that you haven't used in a long time. One of the things that I'm going to hold on to is my garlic press. I haven't used my garlic press in 2 years, but darn it, that's my garlic press. I've gotten rid of almost everything else. I can't make pizza on my own, because I'm getting rid of the pizza stone and all of those different things, but there's just something about that garlic press. It's something that just says it's small, and I'm just going to hang on to it. I'm just going to keep it. That's a good choice to make. Not because I'm going to keep it because I'm going to use it, but because, doggone it, I chose that garlic press. And if I ever want to press garlic, I want to press it in this garlic press. And if I can't press it in this garlic press, then maybe I don't need the garlic. But I've taken it and put it in a place then where it can travel with me. So the first step again is visualizing, seeing what you want it to look like. Second is utilizing, going through the process of seeing those things that are really important to you and essential to you, and seeing the things you don't use that often, and determining of those things what are important for you to keep. Now, if you start to think about keeping something because it has a value, a monetary value, that's a problem. If it has a monetary value, it has a monetary value because someone else might want to buy that from you. That's a good thing, but that means that they'll put value in it too. If it has value to you that can be fulfilled by passing it on to someone who is going to use it for free, then it's going to be just as beneficial for you to get rid of that, knowing it's gone to a good home and not receiving any money for it. Well, if you're starting out on this life and you have to sell everything to be able to afford it, then you're probably not ready to get on this life, in this life at all. Your life already needs to be simpler. Okay. Third point is consolidate. Think of it as if you were shipping things somewhere. Well, don't think about it in terms of weight at all right now when you're trying to consolidate and figure out what it is you need. Think in terms of size only. How can you get what you feel you need into the vehicle that you want to live in? One of the ways that you can do this is so consolidating though and trying to find the smallest space that you can use. And if something is too big, you're going to have to decide whether having that thing is going to negate your decision to go and have the freedom to be on the road. You're going to have to decide whether that chest freezer is just so personally important to you that you have to try and fit it into your Prius. It just isn't going to work. So you're going to have to make a decision. And it shouldn't be, I don't think it should be about things that help you make a decision about whether you're going to live the best life that's there for you. So we visualize first, utilize, take an assessment of those things that you need, consolidate, pack it down, make it smaller. One of the things in consolidating is like in your home, if you're in sticks and bricks right now. What I did, and what I would suggest to you, I've heard many people suggest this before, is begin to consolidate your life in your house into one area. Now, you're going to use your kitchen, you're going to use your bathroom, so you can't really move that. But in the house that I was in, I was fortunate enough to have about a 12 by 12 entryway into the home. Because I was alone, and it was a 3-bedroom house, and had a sewing room and a garage and all this stuff, that's way more room than I needed, and I knew I needed to consolidate down to where I was living in that entryway room. So my bed was there. My TV was there, my little cart was there, my clothes were all there. The bedrooms that I lived in for 24 years, I no longer lived in. It was sealed off. I closed up the vents so that, the air conditioning wouldn't be running in there. The other rooms that I had stuff where I was doing remodel in the house and like that, I cleared those all out. I did leave one with some stored stuff there because I didn't know if the people buying the house were going to want some of the materials I had. Turned out they didn't. But I didn't live in those rooms anymore. I did go into the bathroom, use the bathroom, and I showered, of course. I couldn't move that to the entryway, and my kitchen stuff. But what it did is it let me know that that's supposed to be where my focus is. That's where my stuff is supposed to be. Kitchen stuff, it was still all over the kitchen, so I had to go through a whole bunch of stuff there, a whole bunch of things there. And I still had a storage unit before, while I was doing this, that I had to start whittling down eventually too. But when you consolidate, live into one room. Okay, the next then is to excavate, and I just use this word to kind of fit in. Excavate is when you dig something out and move it, or you get rid of it. So that's what it is you begin to get rid of stuff. Some stuff, because it has emotional attachment, especially if you've been in a relationship and you're divorced. There's some things that you end up with that just remind you of the relationship, or remind you of the failure, or remind you euphorically of the freedom that you have, that you don't want to carry around with you, but you don't want to pass on to anybody either. And sometimes it's good to just be able to take something like that and throw it away. The freedom of being able to do that, not because of bitterness, not because of a sense of not being resolved, but as a symbol that something is resolved. I mean, the life I had for almost 40 years was broken 3 years ago. It wasn't a whole together great life. It's a great life now, but it wasn't then, and it's too bad. But if it hadn't happened, I never would have found what I've found now. So sometimes you just need to throw stuff away, even if it has value. I don't just mean monetary value. You need to give stuff away. You don't need to be reminded of it. You want it out of your life. You don't want to think about it. You don't want to be tethered by it. It has to be gone. So there has to be a sense of resolution. It's kind of like if you have to get rid of a pet. Now, I unfortunately, my little dog had to be put down a couple of years ago. And there was a resolve and a relief there, and a great grief too. So if some of you have a pet that you need to get rid of, you want to make sure that it's going to a good home. There's a resolution that you know that the one that you care about, the thing that you care about, that dog or that cat, is going to be well taken care of, so that you don't have to think about it. You don't have. I mean, you can miss him, but you don't have to think about that you didn't do your job. You can walk away from that feeling that you did the best you could. You got him to a good home, and with my little Rosie, it was a resolution of what just had to happen, and yeah, it broke my heart, but anyway, it's a way of being untethered when you're able to let go of certain things like that, and you're able to excavate those things. If you put up a pile of stuff that you have, and somebody could just come with a scoop shovel and just start scooping it up, it's like excavating that and just getting rid of it. And the wonderful thing is that once you see that space that used to be taken up with your stuff empty, and you're free of that stuff, you find a way to be free, resolving to be free, you're going to be happy. So these first 4 things that I've said, visualizing, utilizing, consolidating, and excavating, is followed by number 5, which is repeat. Because this is not a one-time shot. This is a over and over and over again. It's kind of like taking a course in college or something. When you go for the first week and you take notes, after the second week you have a quiz. Doesn't mean the course is over. It's a part of the process, but you took a quiz. It shows what you knew, what you didn't know, and you learn from those things as you get into the 3rd week and the 4th week, and then you get into the 8th week, and all of a sudden you have a test. The course isn't over. It's a process of what you're going through, and each time you are tested on the material or challenged to be tested on the material, you grow. You begin to understand. We learn, by the way, from our mistakes. We don't learn from the stuff that we didn't make a mistake on. We already knew it. So we learn from our mistakes. We'll learn from the things that we get rid of as we go along. We'll learn to evaluate. We'll learn to see what's valuable. We just don't want to get rid of this. But through the process, we'll begin to ask ourselves why. So the fifth stage of this is repeat. And I suggest, and I know in reality, you should do this at least 10 times. Repeat the process, the first 4 process, with whatever stuff you have left, with whatever stuff you have starting with. Visualize what you want it to look like when you're done. Utilize those things to begin to determine what's important to you and what's not important to you and why. And then consolidate. Do your best to get the bigger things down to smaller things that you can live within that lifestyle that you want to live in. And then excavate, begin to get rid of, and then repeat. You don't have to repeat immediately. It's not like a one weekend and then you have to start on Monday, you start doing it again. But over a process of time, you will. And I recommend that you get on the road as soon as you can in order to be able to see what that life is going to be like and see to what degree there is the tether of things that are holding you. It's not about holding you back, it's just holding you. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. I'm not okay with that. I want to grow my life from this point forward. I don't want to continue to nurture every aspect of my life that's led up to this time, because it's led up to this time so I can say, why did I ever collect that stuff? Why did I ever get that? Well, when you have a family growing and you're the kind of guy like me that you want to have a house so that you can fix it up and do stuff, I don't want to do that for myself. I don't want to live that way, and I'm solo now. I did that for my family. I did that for the people, that were around me. And I did it for myself because it made me feel useful. Well, that's not what makes me feel useful now anymore. So dealing with that stuff is important. The ways we deal with that: give it away, sell it, throw it away, pass it on to a good home, and go back and repeat at least 10 times. Visualize, utilize, consolidate, excavate, and then repeat again. Because as soon as I'm done getting all this whittled down to my trailer and that little cabinet, I'm going to start on my van, which I've been living in. There's a lot of stuff in there that I just don't need. And I still can function in there. It's not like I'm trying to make a lot of room, because there isn't a lot of room in there. It's just I don't necessarily like clutter. And there's a whole difference between there's a bunch of stuff I have to move that I don't use in order to sleep or in order to do something. There's a difference between that and having to move a bunch of stuff that I don't use. Or having to dig through stuff that I don't use to get to the thing underneath my cot that I do use. So it's learning to organize, it's learning to minimize, it's learning to get down to what's really important. And everything has a bit of a cost to it. There is more cost in what you decide to keep than in what you give away. Because what you give away, you can get again. And if you can't get it again, maybe you didn't need it to start with. Well, as you can see, I've started going through things. Cleared out the stuff that was in the trailer, and almost all of these containers are empty over here. I've started a pile of things I'm going to take back to the quartzsite and share with people, and another pile of stuff that I'm going to take to the slabs. Far away from your troubles and worries.